Have you ever poured your heart into a huge, meaningful project only to watch it get completely shut down by opposition? Well, today we're diving into this incredible story from the book of Ezra about a project that didn't just get a second chance, it was supercharged from the most unexpected place you can possibly imagine. So let's get into how this amazing reversal actually happened. Really think about that for a second. What if the very system, the very people trying to stop you, were suddenly ordered not just to get out of your way, but to pay for the entire thing, out of their own budget? It sounds totally impossible, right? But that is the wild twist at the heart of this story of how Jerusalem's Second Temple was rebuilt. But before we get to that shocking turnaround, we have to understand just how bad things were. You see, for years, the dream of rebuilding the temple wasn't just on hold, it was completely dead in the water. Now, it all started with so much hope. After spending decades as exiles in Babylon, the Jewish people were finally given the green light to return home. You can see the massive journey they had to take. And their number one mission? To rebuild the temple, the absolute center of their worship and their identity as a people. But, the moment they started, they hit a brick wall of opposition. Their local enemies used every dirty trick in the book, political games, threats, you name it, to sabotage the whole project. And that initial excitement, it just fizzled out, and this deep sense of discouragement took over. It really felt like there was no way forward. This timeline really lays it all out. You see that first burst of progress? King Cyrus gives the decree, they get home, they even lay the foundation. Awesome! But then, nothing. Everything just grinds to a halt. For more than 10 years, that foundation just sat there, empty, a daily reminder of a failed dream, while everyone got busy building their own houses instead. And then, after all that silence, something changes. A small group makes a really risky choice to start building again. They knew it would attract all the wrong kinds of attention and could put everyone in serious danger. Now, this wasn't just some random idea. The people were fired up by the prophets Haggai and Zechariah, who were basically telling them, trust God and get back to work. So this was a huge act of faith, choosing to listen to God's call, even with all these very real political threats hanging over their heads. And sure enough, as soon as the hammer started swinging again, it caught the eye of the local governor, a guy named Tattenai. Now, it's easy to see him as the bad guy here, but really, he was just a by-the-book official. From his point of view, he sees unauthorized construction popping up in his district, and he's just doing his job by looking into it. So Tattenai shows up and asks them this official question: who gave you permission to do this? And when the Jewish elders tell him, hey, the former king Cyrus gave us a decree, Tattenai does exactly what you'd expect. He sends a letter to the new king, Darius, to fact-check their story. This was it. This was the moment of truth. The king's answer could either give them the legal right to build or shut them down for good. You can just imagine everyone holding their breath, right? But the letter that came back from King Darius wasn't just a simple, okay, you can build. No, it was a decree so incredibly supportive, so over the top, that absolutely no one could have seen it coming. So King Darius tells his staff to search the royal archives. And what do you know? They find King Cyrus's original scroll. This proves the Jews were telling the truth. They had the legal right to build all along. But Darius doesn't just stop there. Oh no, he decides to issue a brand new decree, one that's even more powerful. The level of support here is just mind-blowing. First, Darius orders Tattenai and all his officials to stay away, full stop. They get full legal protection. Second, he commands that the entire cost of construction be paid for out of the royal treasury. Third, and this is so important for worship, he orders that all the daily supplies for the sacrifices be provided. Anything they needed, bulls, lambs, wine, oil, delivered daily. And finally, a terrifying warning. Anyone who gets in the way will be executed in a particularly gruesome way. Look at this. It's a complete 180. The opposition wanted to stop the work. The king mandated it continue. They wanted to bankrupt the builders. The king paid for it all using their tax money. They tried to scare the builders. The king threatened to kill anyone who bothered them. The very investigation that was meant to end the project was the thing that guaranteed its success. It's just incredible. So, with this ironclad decree from the king, the path was finally clear. The story shifts now from all that conflict and construction to completion and celebration. And not just any celebration, but this massive, joyful expression of God's unbelievable faithfulness in making a way for them to worship him again. With every single obstacle totally removed and every need provided for, the work got finished and fast. The temple, which had been a symbol of their failure for so long, was finally complete. It was time to dedicate it. And they did not hold back. At the dedication ceremony, they offered 712 animals as sacrifices. This wasn't just a big party. It was a powerful act of worship. It was a symbol of their relationship with God being restored. And it was all made possible by the supplies that a pagan king had been commanded to give them. And the feeling of the day, the one word that sums it all up, was joy. After all those years of struggling and frustration and feeling hopeless, the people were just filled with joy. And they weren't just happy that a building was finished, they were celebrating why it was finished. And the celebration was bigger than just the new building. They also observed the Passover, which is the festival that remembers how God rescued them from slavery in Egypt centuries before. By doing this, they were connecting what God was doing for them right then and there to his long, long history of being faithful to them. The Bible makes the source of their joy totally clear. It says they were joyful because the Lord had made them joyful. And how did he do that? By doing the impossible, by turning the heart of the most powerful king on earth to not just leave them alone, but to provide everything they needed to worship. You know, this whole story is just a masterclass in what God's faithfulness looks like. It's this core idea that he keeps his promises even when everything looks hopeless. The joy the people felt wasn't just a random emotion. It was the natural, logical response to seeing God's character on full display, overcoming every single obstacle in the most spectacular way. And that kind of leaves us with a question to think about, doesn't it? This isn't just some ancient story about a building. It's a story about a God who is faithful. So how does remembering the ways God has been faithful in the past and seeing how he's still working in the present fuel our own joy and our own worship in our lives today?